Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Enlightenment Through Understanding and Wisdom with your host, Jacob Strong. How's everybody doing today? Hopefully, y'all are doing good. So, I wanted to go over narcissistic abuse and examples of what that looks like. Um, I think that we all really understand, hopefully, the dynamic of what a narcissist is, and that is it's all about them, right? Everything, the world revolves around them as an individual. And and so I wanted to use again my ex as an example to demonstrate what this looks like, um, so that people can understand it and hopefully do something about it. Start properly labeling people as narcissists. The government was so quick to label me a felon for protecting my son from an abusive woman that we need to start realizing that children psychologically cannot be raised by narcissists. Um, they can be aware of them. They can have supervised visitation, but they can't live in that environment. That's an extremely strenuous and torturous environment. And that's why so many children today are running away from home and getting into drugs and that sort of stuff is because of what's going on in society. Narcissism is not being um, labeled and identified. So at any rate, so I kind of wanted to show, um, again, more examples of what that looks like. So if it's an excuse to mistreat you, then it's a distortion, it's a manipulation tactic. Um, so again, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. My ex moved out of my house because God told her to marry her ex-husband and not me. So by her mistreating me, um, she used God as an excuse. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, I should have known that this is not going to be viable to procreate with. So I'm not shifting all blame, but you have to understand that when you're in that narcissistic abusive relationship with that narcissist, especially as an empath, they have such a good way of making it sound like they're really trying to be a good person, like they're really trying to do what's right, instead of um, instead of doing what's right by their partner, doing what's right for the relationship, doing what's right for others around them. They make it sound like they're trying to follow quote unquote God's will for their life. And of course, that's just a manipulation tactic. That's just a tactic to try and get you to submit to their will. And of course we can talk all about everything that she did, from the fact that she didn't want to go on a honeymoon to asking me for the money that I was going to spend on the honeymoon to just give to her instead of going on a honeymoon. So those are just more examples of how that individual doesn't want to build memories with you. They don't want a life with you. They just want what they can get out of you. So, so we're going to focus on what I did and what transpired while I was gone. And again, of course, none of this was brought up in court, but we're going to explain it and demonstrate it. And I'm going to provide proof for the audience that they can simply Google I went on the run in August of 2021 to protect my son from his narcissistic, abusive mother. After several trips to the hospital in which she claimed that my son hurt himself, but he stated that she hurt him. And so after the system was not listening to my son's cries for help, I took matters into my own hand and went on the run. August of 21. I wasn't caught until May, end of May of 22. So about 9 months, about 9, 10 months, that I was on the run. So, um, if you are not a narcissist, what is the typical thing that you are going to do when your child has been quote unquote abducted or kidnapped? What is the first thing that you are going to do? Well, you're going to print out flyers, you're going to post it on your Facebook page. You're going to get on social media. You're going to try and locate that child because you love that child. You want to know that that child is safe. Ironically, um, my ex did none of those things. She did post on her uh, um, website, or on her, not her website, on her Facebook, a picture of me and my son and my mother and a couple of vehicles. But she did not, she only posted it once. She didn't make flyers. She didn't go around trying to locate, which, granted, you know, we're not going to dive into what she may or may not have done that I can't provide proof on. But let me give you a prime example of what she went and did that speaks for itself. You may simply go on Sanders County Ledger, that's the local ledger of the um, newspaper for my county that I lived in. And March 31st of 2022, mind you, about a month and a half, 2 months before I was caught, there's an article posted in the paper with my ex-wife's picture that she has gone and started a restaurant. That's interesting. Your child has been missing for about 6 to 7 months, and you have gone and started a restaurant. Now, mind you, I've owned some food establishment places in my life as well, so I can kind of tell you here in Montana what it takes to start a business. You have to get with DEQ. If you have the money and you have a game plan put together, then you can go and it takes about 30 to 90 days. You have to apply for your food handler's card, and you have to get all the food handling stuff in order, and then start the business. So what's interesting about that is I had been on the run for about, at that point in time, 7 months. Hmm. So instead of out looking for her long lost child, she went and started a restaurant. That's an interesting that's an interesting thing to do. From an outsider looking in, you don't really know how to process that. Well, I can tell you how to process that because I've lived it. Again, the narcissist doesn't want the child because they enjoy parenting. They don't want the child because they want to love and support that child. They want that child to use as a weapon. against their spouse. So it doesn't matter that the child's gone. She doesn't care that the child's gone. She's going to go and start a restaurant. She's going to go and start a business so that she can have something to do, so that she can get, supply from the local townspeople. In that newspaper article, she mentioned nothing of her missing child. She mentioned nothing of what was going on in her personal life. Now, I've seen plenty enough news clippings to know that when a child goes missing, you talk about it, you post about it, you take every opportunity. So even if she had started her business before I went on the run, she could have used that to reach out to more people to explain what was going on. Did she now? No. Because again, it's not about having the child near. It has nothing to do with the child. She doesn't care about the child. It has all to do with her image, with how many people are going to pat her on the back. How many people will give her supply for that? And so to give you another example from a book that I read, this is called "Why Does He Do That?" By Lundy Bancroft. Now, I want to be very clear about the drive behind my podcast, because the government has tried to inject gender into my case so much. And they've done that since the time that I filed for divorce from my narcissistic ex-wife. And what the government has done, especially here in Montana, is they're very pro-woman. And I'm trying to remove gender out of the equation, because narcissism and narcissistic abuse is not a gender issue. It is a human condition. And the sooner that we can realize that, the sooner the courts will start taking this abuse seriously, and maybe, just maybe, our children have a fighting chance of surviving suicide, committing suicide from all the stuff that they're dealing with because they can't deal with what's going on at home. So in this book, this guy describes how he had a client that her 14-year-old son, no, excuse me, that her 12-year-old son, from a previous marriage, ran away. And when he ran away, she panicked, made phone calls. She dropped everything. She went to police department. She went to newspapers. She went to radio stations. She got on TV. She barely slept. Well, her new husband, meanwhile, finally exploded after 2 days of her child being gone, her 12-year-old child being gone. And he says, "I'm so sick of being ignored by you. It's like I don't even exist. Go F yourself." Now that's his stepson, okay? So what does that say about him? It's all about him. It's all about, pay attention to me. And so the child ran away from home. I'm not going to speculate why the child ran away from home. It could have been mom, could have been stepdad, could have been the dynamic within that relationship. I don't know. I'm just repeating what I'm reading out of this book. And so I hate to assign labels with stuff I have not personally experienced. But this is another example of how this fits in with my ex-wife. She went and started a restaurant. She went and moved on with her life after her son, mind you, 4-year-old son, vanishes without a trace. She goes and just moves on with her life. Oh, no harm, no foul. Um, so that in itself explains what he is to her. You see, narcissists, they have a view of their children as an extension of them. So there's no love, there's no affection, there's no individuality with the child. That child's just an extension of them. So whenever they show up, then they better be doing good when they show up, because if not, then they're making me now look bad. And, I'm gonna have to deal with that. And that's the attitude that develops with a narcissistic parent. And that's why, like I was saying, a narcissistic parent cannot raise children. They've psychologically proven that that's the most dangerous dynamic for a parent and child relationship. And so um, because that child has no individuality, that child has no say, that child has feels no love. Everything is transactional. And so that child then turns, and one of two things happens. Either that child turns and becomes a narcissist, or becomes an empath and empathetic. And so once that child has decided, once he gets older or she gets older, as to whether they're going to become a narcissist or an empath, then you have to then history will either repeat itself, or that empath will then get with a narcissist because it's familiar, it's what they know. And so regardless, guess what, history still repeats itself again, only this time they're the victim again, just like they were with their narcissistic parent. So yeah, so that's why it's very important that we study and analyze people's behavior with their characteristics, with their demeanor and body language and actions, because all of that stuff directly correlates with a person's wiring, how they are wired, whether they are wired to be narcissistic, whether they are wired as everything is transactional, or whether they are wired to, be empathetic and loving and compassionate. And so that's what we have to change in modern society today. And time is running out. Our children are committing suicide. Things are happening to our children. And anyway, so again, using my relationship with my ex-wife as an example, to show. I just found this the other day, and I thought it was so ironic. Energy takers and energy givers, and energy takers, what they do versus energy givers. An energy taker focuses on the past. Now, if you remember, I just stated that my ex-wife moved out a month after we were married, because God told her to marry her ex-husband and not me. So she focuses on the past. She's inconsistent with sleeping. My ex, you know, sometimes she was up till 1, 2 in the morning and slept in till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Sometimes she was up all day and slept all night. There was never any consistency. There was no structure in her life whatsoever. Messy and cluttery. This is a typical narcissist. They have the appearance of being very organized and structured and disciplined, and they crack the whip on anyone who doesn't. um, have the organization or the structure in their life, but they themselves are a mess, are a clutter. They have piles of laundry everywhere. Sedentary time. Again, this is a big thing that happened with my ex. She never wanted to do anything. She couldn't hold a job. She sat around 99% of the time. Social media. She was on social media 24/7. She was on Ulta. She was on all these things that showed that she was, you know, living in an alternate reality, basically. This one does not fit her. Overworking. Um, that one actually fits me, which is kind of weird. But anyways, dehydration. They're dehydrated. I can't really say that she was that. But anyways, leave that for another day. Screen time, lots of screen time. And that was very evident with my ex. She spent probably 20 hours a day, at least 16 to 20 hours a day on the screen. Resentment. She always resented me, at least behind closed doors. She always told me that, I didn't know how to run a business, even though I had a very successful, lucrative business. Um, in public now, she would brag about what I did to the point that it was embarrassing that she was bragging about it. And that's what a narcissist does, is especially a lazy narcissist. They try and live through someone who's achieving something because they can't achieve anything on their own. Negativity, they're extremely negative. And again, that was my ex. She was always mad, always trying to start a fight, always being negative. Junk food. Well, that's a big one. I don't know how many times my ex got a candy bar for my son, for my infant son to eat for breakfast because she wouldn't make him anything. I had to step into that role of being business owner and dad, um, taking care of my son, making him breakfast and lunch and all of that stuff. The news, they are asphyxiated with the news, as is my ex. Alcohol, she did like her alcohol. So did my dad, which was very, which is how I could also see the correlation between the two. They're always stressed out and they're always fearful. Um, the last one does not apply to my ex, but it does apply to my dad, as he well, at least was. I haven't spoken to him in over 20 years, and I don't care to speak to him. Um, is fearful. Now, here's the difference between an energy giver. Here's someone who's empathetic and compassionate, and you're going to start seeing the stark differences between these two. An energy giver likes nature. If you've seen my office, it's on my website, which is www.etuw.org. You will see a picture of my office, and it's full of plants and flowers. I've always been, surrounded by nature. Um, Resting. I always am structured. I get a good night's rest, and I'm up at 5, 6 in the morning and start my day. Lots of sunlight. I love sunlight. I like to go out and be in the sun and just absorb the sun. Courage. Well, I would have to say, not to toot my own horn, but it took a lot of courage for me to take my son away from his abuser and flee to Costa Rica. And so I would say that I fall into that category. Positivity. I always keep a smile on my face because I had a very bad childhood. I was sexually abused. I was beaten to within inches of my life. And So for me to protect a child from living the same life that I have, it starts by bringing awareness, and it starts by being positive about it. Obviously, too much positivity can become toxic, but you know, by bringing it about in a neutral way, and then ending our talks on a positive, and saying, this is why I'm doing this, is to bring about awareness. Um, that's the mindset that an energy giver has. Gratitude, grateful. Um, yeah, I don't say thank you enough for everything, and yet I still say thank you for everything that I get, and everywhere that I go, for everything. Hydration, well, I don't know about that one. I mean, I drink a lot of water, coffee, and I guess red wine. That's about the only three things that I drink. So yeah, I don't know if I'm hydrated well enough or not, but meditation. I am. I do like to meditate. I like to spend a lot of time just. I like to use the term woosah, and just sit in the moment and keep to myself, and relax, and keep quiet. And that's how I can gain clarity and understanding and know what to do. Movement. Movement is important to me. Movement with purpose is important. It's not just movement, but it's movement with purpose. I don't want to just be driving around all day. I'm an HVAC technician by day. I don't want to just be driving around all day getting nothing done. I want to, you know, go to a job, get a job done, go to the next job, get a job done, go to the next job. Or if I'm at one job for all day, I want to work at that job all day. I oftentimes don't stop for lunch because I'm there to move with purpose. I'm there to achieve something. And so that's kind of how you can tell, again, someone's, you know, wired correctly. They're not running around like a chicken with their head chopped off, and they're not accomplishing anything. They're actually getting stuff accomplished when they do movement. Breath work. Well, I don't know that I do that one enough, or that I really even know what that is. But yeah, it did come through on this psychology forum that I thought was kind of interesting. Community. Most of you now know that I have started my nonprofit for bringing awareness and helping people to understand what narcissistic abuse is, and um, how to identify it early on, and I do all of this for free. I don't do any of it for any monetary gain whatsoever. So I'm very community driven, to make my community, to make the world as a whole a better place. Decluttering. Yes. I'm definitely not a clutter. You could ask my boss, if any of you knew him. I do not I do not put I do not have my van a mess. My work van is very organized, um, as clean as it can be for a work van. But everything is organized. Everything has a place in the van. So decluttering is very important. Consistent sleep. Of course, we went over that with resting earlier, and that is important. Eating whole foods. Well, I used to um, eat, you know, everything as far as like pork and beef and all that stuff. I have felt inclined to become a fruitarian, and I am working in that direction. Mostly because, I lost a lot. I lost a lot with my son. I I lost my cat, and and that hurt, to the point that I don't want to harm anything anymore. It's getting to where I actually consciously think about eating a steak, and I realize what that cow or that bull may have looked like um, before it's chopped up and set on my plate. So, um, so that does not mean, again, that you're a narcissist if you eat a steak. That's not what I'm trying to say here. I want to make it very clear that, you know, the closer that we get with nature, the closer that we get with society, with other human beings, the more empathy that we have, the more that we realize how much we're hurting. And so again, like I said, I'm not trying to say if you eat a steak you're a narcissist. That's not what we're trying to label you as. We're trying to look at everything and see the direction that an individual is moving. Because if you're standing still, you are dying. If you are moving in either direction, you are either moving forward or backward. And so that's pretty important to recognize. Are you learning? Are you constantly striving to learn, to live better, and to be a better member of society, and to help people more? Because that really designates, you know, what you're trying to achieve, and how much you're growing or regressing in life. And of course, the last thing is learning something new, um, which I just covered there. And so that's pretty important as well. Just trying to learn something new, and again, being open-minded to it. That's very important, to be open-minded to something new. It doesn't mean you have to adopt it, but do your homework on it. You find out something new. Is it good or is it bad? Um, a, a, a bee doesn't waste their time explaining to flies why honey is better than shit, right? So so when you recognize that, you recognize that, you know, you're not trying to change anyone else. You're trying to bring awareness for those who actually want to learn, for those who actually want to ascend um, farther up, and recognize how they can, be better for the world, as an individual, with the end result being as a whole. So yeah, so that's my podcast for today. I really appreciate all you for stopping by, and saying hi, and that does mean a lot to me. I continue to ask for your support, and I ask that any of y'all share these podcasts, because they are important. They're important to my son. They're important to society, that we understand, and recognize what a narcissist is, and what an abuser is, because we're running out of time. History repeats itself. That's been proven time and time again, and our children are only getting more mad, or they're getting more empathetic, or they're getting more suicidal, just flat giving up in general. And because they don't know, they're not being taught, they're not being told. Um, it's like I like to say, I met my ex-wife when I was 27 and she was 37 going on 38. If someone would have explained to me what she is in a language that I could understand, I would have never procreated with her. I would have never married her. I would have never tried to start anything with her because I would have realized what I was seeking was a family life. I wanted a wife. I wanted many children, or at least a couple. And so I would have never even thought that that was an eligible bachelorette because I would have learned what an eligible bachelorette is. But instead, growing up with a very narcissistic and abusive dad, I actually developed the mentality that a woman could never be that narcissistic, could never be that abusive. And so I myself became gender biased because my dad was so violent and so abusive and so narcissistic that I didn't trust men. I didn't, and of course my mother, who is the sweetest, person, she's an empath through and through. She I couldn't see how a woman could ever do that to a child. And boy, did my ex show me wrong. So anyway, so yeah, and share. Please share my podcast. Visit my website, www.etuw.org. And of course, you can look me up on Facebook, Jacob Strong. My my tiger, my Siberian tiger, is kind of my trademark. It's on my Facebook. It's on my professional Facebook page. And I live here in Billings, Montana. So I'd appreciate it if y'all could help me get the word out there and keep liking and sharing. And y'all have a wonderful day, and thank you, and we'll catch you next week. Okay.